So the core of our team is Baltimore and New York. We've got a small team in San Francisco, but an important set of people out there. So my COO and my head of product, my head of marketing are based out in San Francisco. And that was very much a opportunistic play based on the people that we had there, you know. I mean, San Francisco was an ability to get Brian White on the team, to establish relationships with the West Coast, with both on the customer side and on the venture capital side, and to start to build around him. And it was a wonderful, that's turned out to be a wonderful move. We've kept it small. We've thought about, and we've actually attempted to kind of build out some engineering presence out there. In my own viewpoint, there's still something about being able to physically get people together frequently. And we can do it with a 2-hour Amtrak. A lot easier than a 5-hour cross-country flight. And even in an age of video conferences, and this is very much a team sport right now. I just happen to have an incredibly competent, mature product marketing, business operations type team out there. And those are also skill sets that are a little harder to find out here, I think, sometimes. So we've balanced what we do in San Francisco versus what we do here. We're certainly keen to grow here and grow in New York as primary growth centers, if you will. London, London for us is a small team of people there to just handle London accounts and grow the business a bit and throughout Europe. It's a handful of people. So I mean, our growth will be focused on Baltimore and New York as we move forward, but we'll again, it gives us the opportunity to opportunistically grow in those places if necessary. When you look at the different funding cycles of a company, you have your seed funding round is really there to enable you to prove out your idea that this is even feasible. Series A and Series B, and these lines get blurred sometimes, but your Series A and Series B is there to prove that the product works, that you've got initial customer traction, that you're marching towards product market fit. And really, by the time you finish up that Series B funding, you ought to be in a position where you've got a proven product, you've got a consistent set of happy customers using that product, you've got sales collateral and marketing collateral that's ready to scale. And it's really about bringing in Series C money that's going to either be applied towards a large direct sales force or a serious effort and investment towards channel partners, because we're going to go from X to X times 10 customers. And we feel like we actually know with some certainty how much money translates to how much revenue. We've got the unit economics nailed. We've got the market nailed. And for us, we expect to enter that confidence zone of being able to really predict the business sometime later this year, and that will be the trigger point for us to say, okay, let's go back to the market and let's bring in some additional capital. We've been here for about 5 years in the city, and in that time, I've really fallen in love with just the entirety of the ecosystem here, right? I really truly have never been in a place where actually everybody just wants everybody else to win. And part of that's probably because most people don't compete with each other on a daily basis, just the way the social circles work. So you go out to dinner with a bunch of couples and actually everybody does something different. Whereas if you're in San Francisco, you're all software engineers, or if you're in New York City, you're all bankers, and you're in some way all kind of competing against everybody else, right? Here you kind of go to dinner and there's a couple bankers, and there's some real estate people, and there's somebody who's got in manufacturing, and somebody who's in education or works for Hopkins or this and that. And so, the diversity of that I think makes it less competitive in some ways. The second thing is obviously everybody realizes that the better Baltimore is as a city, the better everybody does, because they realize the city's not financially, exceeding its expectations, right? There's lots of work to be done. And then you have that little bit of competitive vibe, like we're Baltimore, we're not DC, right? So you have all these different factors that kind of go into making the city a really interesting place. That coupled with the fact that there is a lot of good that needs to be done here really came to light for me after the chaos that we had in the city, last year. I'll never forget this. I was in New York City, run into a meeting, and I get a call from Don Fry over at the GBC, and he says, hey, we've decided this year that we'd like to get a couple of smaller companies in and get their voice on the board. And I thought, I don't really have time for this. And I basically said no. And then a week later, you're watching the television. I'm driving into the city the next day, and we're seeing this happen. And then you see the National Guard, and you realize, wow, this city is struggling, right? There's a need. And I called Don and I said, hey, if you'll still have me, I'm very interested. And that really was a great. I'm extremely fortunate that A, I was asked in the first place, but B, that he took me after I called him back. And I think there's some tremendous leaders in this city too. I've been just blown away by people like Ron Daniels at Hopkins, and Mike Henkin, Brown Advisory, and just people Brian Rogers at T-Row, people who have a real, obviously Kevin Plank and the crew over there. God, there's just some great people who are, who want to do great things there too. So part of it is a sense of, hey, this is our city, let's do great. Part of it is very much being inspired by the people around me and saying, look, if them, why not us, right? And part of it's just the raw opportunity. I mean, you look at the geography, you look at the people, you look at the core of who the people are, you look at the grittiness, you look at the culture, and you look at, frankly, the great assets within the ecosystem. Hopkins, NSA, the entire financial ecosystem here. So there's great pieces here. I think it's a wonderful city, and we ought to figure out how we can play a role in that. So that's what we try to do.